Welcome back to another video here, guys. If you're watching on YouTube and if you are listening on the podcast, welcome. We are diving into, I have my phone here because we have 15 things to go through, advice to my 20s self that I would give who is obsessed with food and my body. So this is going to be more of a relationship with food focus, which is really the meat of all of it. And I talk about this all the time when it comes to changing your body. If that's something you want to do, if you want to get leaner, lose weight, whatever it is, you have to start here. This is the foundation. It is so crucial. Don't look at my nails. I had to get them taken off. I get gel and they were getting too long for me and I couldn't wait the full 5 weeks. I digress. My nails look heinous, don't look at them, okay? But we're covering advice to anyone. Really, this is given to the younger version of me who was really struggling with food and my body for almost a decade, for 9 years, from 16 to about 24 or 25 years old. Now, if that is you, I want you to listen up because these lessons will save you so much time if you really take them in and integrate them. Without further ado, number one, the cookies, ice cream, chips and queso, those are not the problem. The beliefs and stories you have about them are the problem, and you need to unlearn those. This is kind of more of the tactical stuff that we start with inside of my Food Freedom Evolution course, is relating to your thoughts, how you're relating to your thoughts, right? Because so often we don't realize that we are not our thoughts. They are just coming into our awareness, our conscious awareness. That is what we are, the awareness. And we get to let them pass. And when I first heard this, my mind was blown because I didn't realize that I was not the thinker of those. Even though I had no control over them, they would just pop in. And as you may have experienced, if you've had an intrusive thought, an unwanted thought that comes out of nowhere, it's like, whoa. Where did you come from? I don't want you here. Of course, you didn't want to think that. You are not the one that is asking those thoughts to come. They're just popping up. We live in a highly complex world. I think it's around 10,000 thoughts a day. So if you think that you have the energy to be consciously coming up with 10,000 thoughts a day, you are mistaken. Let those thoughts that you have inherited about food, about your body, about dieting, about control, about fear, all of them, good, bad, right, wrong, yada, yada, that is what breeds this chaos. And if you can just say, this is why I still am, but was really dedicated to meditation back in the day, is it taught me this ability to let thoughts come into my awareness, recognize them, not push them away, because that only amplifies them, and let them go. Those thoughts about food, you have to be able to recognize that. Say, is this true? Is this useful? If not, let them go. Number two, start treating yourself with respect and all of this food stuff will fall into place. Self-respect as the foundation is absolutely essential. It's one of the 3 pillars I cover, again, inside of FFE, what I call the trifecta of connection, trust, and self-worth. If you don't have that self-worth, that self-respect as your anchor, then that's when things get squirrely. And this is essential as well if you eventually go on to intentionally change your body. This is what keeps you nicely tethered to the middle, because you're not going to go to either extreme, because a woman who respects herself would never do that. Now, what does it look like to respect yourself, to respect your body? Feeding yourself with really nutritious foods most of the time, but also realizing that part of caring for yourself as a human being is having fun, is letting loose, is being flexible, going with the flow, hanging out with people, connecting, letting food be a source of connection, of pleasure, of joy, of culture, all the things. It keeps you in that middle balance of taking care of yourself, which doesn't mean rigidity. At a certain point, excess rigidity turns into not taking care of yourself. And on the other end of the spectrum, too much chaos, not having any boundaries, any structure, that is also not taking care of yourself. So lead with self-respect and everything will fall into place. Number 3, the stressful and chaotic thoughts you have about food in your body, they're not personal. Just let them pass by, then make a respectful choice. So this is similar to number 1, where we have all these beliefs. This is just the practice of letting them pass. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to attack you. If you notice a thought come in that starts talking about your cellulite or that starts shaming you for the burger you ate last night, say, oh, interesting. Someone must have told me that was good, bad, right, or wrong. I'm going to let it be there. And then I'm going to make the choice, going to number 2, self-respect, the self-respecting choice. You have to have that moment of awareness, that pause in between the thought to then consciously choose your next action, which I hope is rooted in self-respect. Number 4, focus on building a life you love, not a body. If I could shout this from the rooftops to everybody, when I see these young girls on TikTok especially, they're so young and they're focused on the wrong shit. I don't know if I can say this on YouTube. These videos aren't really monetized anyway, so who cares? Focus on building a life you love, not a body. So often we use dieting and chasing this certain perfect physique and controlling food because our life is not fulfilling. And once you go out and you actually focus on building a life full of relationships and hobbies and pursuing a career that you love, maybe moving somewhere you've always wanted to move, challenging yourself in ways that align with your values, you realize, oh, I don't have time to be thinking about all this food stuff because I'm so full up on life and I'm not running away. I'm not using food as a way to cope. I'm not trying to find joy and pleasure in every facet of my life, just micro-focused on food in my body. Plus, we're here to live, right? We're not here to just shrink and look a certain way. Number 5, you think you want control, but you really want to trust yourself. When I was deeply seeking control, trying to follow 8,000 different food rules, I always thought somebody else knew better than me. But ultimately, what I wanted is I thought that all that control would lead to safety. And what actually leads to safety is knowing that I can handle it no matter what. So in any situation with food, doesn't matter any type of alcohol, any type of social situation, it doesn't matter. If I have enough trust in myself where I can say I can handle anything, any situation, that is true safety. Not relying on every single part of my environment being perfect so that I can eat the same exact things every single day, that I'm never tempted to go off the rails. That is not what leads to safety. That is a false sense of safety. Our brains are trying so hard and they're well-meaning. True safety comes from learning to trust yourself. Number 6, stop staring at yourself in the mirror. Just stop. Any time, and I went through this phase, I remember in high school as well, and then later on in my 20s when I was really focused on improving this aspect of my life, is I just stopped staring at myself. I said, this is taking up too much of my life, focused on me. I need to focus on my personality, on showing up in the world the way that I want to, on learning about myself, developing curiosity, exploring adventures. That is what I focused on. Stop staring at yourself in the mirror. It is the biggest waste of time. You're going to look back at the end of your life and say, wow, I spent, 10% or 20 whatever percent of my life just nitpicking my body in the mirror or staring at the wrinkles on my face, whatever it is. Let it go. We are not that important. And we teach our brains that everything is life or death when we sit there and we stare at ourselves. Every little detail. We're not meant to be looking at ourselves like this. This is a new development for our brains. Go out and live your life and stop staring at yourself and looking for imperfections, because I promise the longer you stare, the more you will find. Number 7, the parts of your personality you don't like, insecurities, projections, those need your attention more than any diet or exercise plan. Who we are on the inside, that is what brings us that confidence, that level of security, of safety. Focus on developing and becoming the woman of your dreams from the inside, and all of the other stuff will fall into place. And this goes back to number 2, self-respect. Learn to connect with yourself, learn about yourself, trust yourself. Discover, okay, why am I judging these other people? Why am I judging these women? Why am I constantly scanning other women's bodies and looking at what they're eating, blah, blah, blah? Because I don't trust myself because I'm insecure. Maybe I should work on that. Maybe I should develop a more solid sense of self instead of constantly looking outside of myself. And certainly instead of looking outside for safety in food and exercise in my body. Number 8, you have no idea what another woman is going through in her head. Her choices, her body, her goals, they're none of your business. So this applies to a woman might look, quote unquote, ideal from the outside, but deep down, she's deeply struggling with insecurity, maybe has a negative relationship with food, maybe struggling with health issues. You have no idea. Other end of the spectrum, someone might be overweight, and people often judge that and have all these stories about, oh, that person must be lazy, right? That's such a common one. You have no idea what it is like to be living in another woman's head. And when it comes to comparing food choices, exercise choices, do you know what it feels like to be in her stomach? Do you know how many meals she's eaten, her energy levels, her mood, where she is in her cycle? Do you know how many calories she burns a day? We have zero clue what it is like to be in another woman's experience. Therefore, it is completely irrelevant to what you should be doing. That's enough judgment going on between women. Let's just support women and trust that every woman is showing up in the best way she can for herself and champion other women instead of comparing and trying to nitpick and be like them or cut them down. Number 9, just because they eat more, less, or differently than you doesn't mean anything. Keep your eyes on your own plate always. So in a similar vein, when you're going out to eat, and young me used to do this all the time, if other girls, it was never men, only other women, girls, if they were eating more, then I said, okay, now I can eat more. If they were eating less, I would say, okay, I better stop. That means something bad about me. Or they're not having dessert, I can't have dessert, right? It was constantly either permission slip for me to do something or a reason for me that I wasn't allowed to do something. Talk about outsourcing confidence, trust, connection, the ability to just feed myself. It doesn't make any sense, right? When you think about it logically, oh, that person's choice who has nothing to do with my body, my lived experience, has no idea what I'm feeling right now, how hungry I am, tired I am, what foods I like, don't like, etc. But I'm just gonna make decisions based on what she's doing. It's insanity, right? Eyes on your own plate. Number 10, you think you're afraid of others rejecting you, but you're really afraid of you rejecting you. If you really let that one sink in, so often we think that we're afraid of being shamed by others, of being criticized and judged by others, but the harshest critic is the one that we have in our own head. And it's coming from a place of love, especially if we saw growing up people providing more of that quote unquote tough love of constant criticism because oftentimes they were afraid or they were just projecting their own stuff onto us when we were younger. But truly, when we think we're afraid of being judged and rejected by others, we don't have that solid sense of self within. We don't have our backs all the time. We don't have that ride or die inner, I am my best friend. I always show up for me, even if I fail, even if I fumble, even if I'm embarrassed, even if I make mistakes, even if I do the wrong thing, I have my back. If I gain 20 pounds, I got me. If I overeat, I got me. If I don't complete this workout, I got me. Whatever it is, you just have to have that sense of I love and respect myself and I have my back as a human and I show myself so much compassion. That fear of rejection that's coming from, oh, there's a dictator inside that I'm about to have to answer to. And that is what gives that sense of anxiety. And when you shift that and you focus on being kind to yourself, then other people rejecting you, that's irrelevant. Does it feel nice? Not always. But I promise you, it will impact you significantly less. Number 11, a healthy relationship with food isn't eating clean all the time. And it also isn't following any urge that pops up. Well, I see a cookie, therefore I should have a cookie. The answers are in the middle, in the gray, and they require context. And this requires that you learn to trust yourself. Again, outsourcing all of our decision making when it comes to food, exercise, our bodies to the books, the podcasts. Well, the health people said this, the biohackers said this. I read so many damn books on health and fitness and nutrition, and all I was left with was an inability to feed myself. I knew, right, in quotes, more about nutrition than anyone I knew, yet I struggled with food and my body and my health more than anybody I knew. It's not about acquiring more information, it's about learning to trust yourself. The answers are not going to come from them. And when you learn this, when you accept that there aren't any black and white rules, and that gray area rather, that can make us feel a little insecure, a little scared when we don't have that sense of trust. But it is also the most liberating thing because you realize you can't screw anything up. Once you anchor into that sense of self-respect, you're not going to be going to the extremes anymore. In that gray area, that's where the fun is. That's where the joy is. That's where life is. And sure, sometimes the pendulum swings a little this way. Maybe I'm dialing things in because I want to change my body. Don't do this until your relationship with food is solid. Or because I just really want to be dialed because I'm focused on a goal. Maybe you're focused on some kind of exercise performance or you just want to feel better. Other times you might be on vacation, you might just be more lax. And so the pendulum swings a little bit further this way. But the gray area is where the magic is. If you're not comfortable there, you need to build up that sense of trust with yourself. Next one, you can lose weight later if you want to, but you need to get your mind right first. This is a PSA for all women in the world who want to change their bodies. Truthfully, 90% of the women I come across who say, I want to lose weight and change my body, they need to start here. And everyone wants to skip it. They think, no, I'll do that later. You won't do that later because you're going to gain it all back or you're going to live in such misery. I see this all the time where women are like, I've lost weight and I followed the calorie deficit because now they understand some of the science, but then they say, now I feel trapped. And I'm so terrified to eat more, to find my maintenance. And I feel so insecure now because I don't trust myself around any of these foods and their world gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's because they didn't focus on their relationship with food first. Because once you have a healthy relationship with food, you will never let yourself get to that point. And weight loss is significantly easier when everything is peaceful. You navigate that gray area with ease and joy. Food doesn't stress you out. You know your body well. You completely trust yourself. Imagine changing your body from that place. Game changer. And for the women who do trust me when I say this, and they actually follow this plan, usually they start inside of Food Freedom Evolution and then they join Sustainably Lean Academy to get leaner later if they still want to. And they come back to me and they say, you were right. It is crazy how much easier it is to lose weight once you have that healthy relationship with food down first. Trust me. Young me, I don't know if she would trust me, but I want you to trust me here. Number 13, you're afraid to eat without rules because you think you can screw this eating thing up. You can't. That's a lie you've been sold. There are so many gurus out there. And guess what sells? Rules. Having black and white rules. That is sexy. People love to be part of a team. They love to feel safe with all these really black and white rules in a really chaotic world that we live in. And so we think if I just follow exactly what they say to a T, everything will be okay. And I lived in this place. Every morning I would say, okay, these are the exact things I'm going to follow. Would I follow them? No, because they were completely impractical. But it made my brain feel safe to say, okay, if I just follow these things, everything will be okay. And actually that was the very thing that was leading to everything not being okay. Because I didn't realize that that wasn't possible to live that way, but I was going to screw it up. I was going to fail. I was setting myself up to fail. And the only way that I was able to really find that sense of peace was realizing, there are no rules. And if there are no rules, that means I can't screw up. All I have to do is decide in each moment what is best for me. That is what a healthy relationship with food is each moment you make the best decision you can for yourself, and you know yourself well enough to know what that is. Might be drastically different from the choice another woman would make, and that's completely irrelevant. You have to come back to that anchor inside of yourself and realize there is no right or wrong. I'm going to eat millions of times, I don't know if that's an accurate number, but for the rest of my life, and there is no pass or fail. And if that scares you, it might initially, because you're realizing, oh my God, there aren't black and white rules. On the other side of that, you realize, there aren't any black and white rules. I cannot screw this up, therefore I cannot fail. Number 14, your emotions aren't trying to hurt you. They're either trying to help you by giving your feedback or are just the result of living in a really stimulating world. Feel them with an open heart and let them pass. If you're an emotional eater, a stress eater, if you're afraid to feel emotions, this still gets me sometimes where I feel suddenly overwhelmed with sensation in my body, especially when I don't know why it's there. And I just have to remember, it's just neutral. I'm a human being in a highly complex world. And sometimes, especially every time I look back, those emotions are really telling me something very useful. So if I notice, okay, every time I'm around this person, I feel a certain way, or every time I'm in this certain situation, I feel this way, look at that. Sit with it for a moment and realize it's not trying to hurt you. It's just neutral sensations in your body. Sometimes it's useful. Sometimes it's just random byproduct from our nervous system of living in a really chaotic, stimulating world, which is why we need to be focused on having downtime so our nervous system can come back to baseline. But running from your emotions know where you live. They're never going to go anywhere. So come back into your body. And this is where you learn to be safe within your body, is by realizing your emotions are on your side. At best, they're trying to help you. At worst, they're just neutral. Just like sometimes your knee might hurt, you might get some discomfort in your body. Let it pass through your heart. Open your heart to it. Let yourself be human and let it pass. It always, always passes. And number 15, you can do hard things, I promise. That is one of the biggest messages I would give to my younger self and to anyone struggling with their relationship with food is it might seem insurmountable right now because it seems like this is the only way you're ever going to be able to live. But think back to a time. There's a time for all of us where we didn't have this, the food chaos, the food drama, right? For me, it was before the age of 16. And I remember thinking, well, I existed without this then, so I can exist without it again. And you can actually let the work of developing a healthy relationship with food, of finding that peace and confidence again, be joyful. Because it is, you realize, I'm liberated. I am free from all of this. There's a better way to live. And you get those micro moments at the beginning. They seem so subtle because you get frustrated and I just want to feel this peace more quickly. But each moment you get a little bit more peace, a little bit more calm, a little bit more confidence and trust, connection to yourself. You don't run from your emotions that time and use food to cope. Each time you develop more trust with yourself, and pretty soon your whole life with food and exercising your body just becomes peaceful. It becomes confidence. It becomes trust. You can do hard things, I promise. It will not break you. You will absolutely make it to the other side. And I would love to guide you there. if you would like. If you would like some help on your journey with your relationship with food, I do have a free training, 4 steps to stop obsessing about food. You will learn about the Food Freedom Evolution course at the end there if you'd like to. And you can also just jump straight into the course if you'd like. All of the details are linked in the notes below, whether you're listening on YouTube or in the podcast. And I will see you guys in the next one.